In today's episode, we're going to be checking out the Fender Ultralux Jaguar. This is the 60th anniversary guitar from Fender. They only made 500 of these, and a viewer was very nice and asked if I would be willing to check it out, and had it sent straight here from the guitar store where we purchased it. So it's brand new. We get to check it out first, see it, and then send it off to him. And this is only one of 500 made. They didn't make a whole lot of these, so it is kind of a unique guitar, and that's why it's on today's deep dive. So let's check it out. First, of course, it is a beautiful guitar with a lot of features and a lot of different features that you normally don't see with the Jaguar. So let's start with the headstock. First off, we have 6 Fender locking keys, and these are all short posts, so they're not staggered. Normally the first 3 are taller and then they get shorter. Nope, all 6 of these are short posts. Then we have a tusk nut and 22 medium jumbo stainless steel frets on an ebony fretboard. It does have 7mm pearloid dot markers, and it does come with strap locks. But what's really different is instead of the 24-inch scale, this is 25.5 like a Fender Strat, Tele, or Jazzmaster. It also has a compound radius that's 10 to 14 inches, so it gets a little flatter as it gets up the fretboard, and I confirmed it with the radius gauges. Now the case is a molded Fender case. It's got TSA locks and it's form fitted to the guitar. It's made in China and it overall looks pretty good. Now this is probably a good time to mention that the color is Texas T. It looks black, it's not. It's basically a black polyurethane finish with gold flakes in it. But overall, this guitar is going to look black. Looking at the back of the headstock, you'll notice it doesn't say Made in USA. It says Corona, California. Fender stopped putting Made in USA on their Fender guitars and basses a few years ago and just state Corona, California, but they are still made in the USA in their factory in Corona, California. Now this is a maple neck with a satin finish and a walnut skunk stripe for the truss rod. And as you can see here, as you get to the body, it has a bolt-on neck, but it's contoured and has a cutaway to give you easy access to those 22 frets. They also etched Fender's 60th anniversary Jaguar into the neck plate with a little picture of the guitar, which I thought was a nice touch. Looking at the body, it's alder with a Adjust-O-Matic string-through body bridge and 2 custom double tap humbuckers. We'll talk about those in the geeky stuff. A volume and tone control with 3-position blade switch, 2 individual coil taps or coil splits. Again, we'll talk about that in the geeky stuff. Now, Fender's always been a pretty cool company for swagging up the case, and there's no exception here. You got the hang tags, free lessons, you get a very detailed instructions on how the pickups work, which we'll cover in the geeky stuff and in the sound demo. You get a Fender logoed leatherette pouch, you get a little owner's manual, and you get a certificate of authenticity, which is always really cool, a Fender sticker, and a neck adjustment tool. All right, let's get into the geeky stuff and see what we can figure out about this guitar. Now, the first thing we're going to look at is how well the neck was adjusted, and the neck is pretty straight. There's just a little bit of relief in it, but it looks really good. The next thing we want to look at is the action, and this action is sitting at about 2mm, which is 0.07, and it also looks really good. This is probably ideal for a lot of players. Some players might like it a little lower. So let's go ahead and check the nut. Now, what we're going to do is, of course, use our ring finger, push down on the 3rd fret, and we're just going to tap ever so lightly on the 1st fret. And this the way I'm tapping right now, what I see is a pretty decent sized gap. They could have cut that slot a little, or filed it down a little deeper. I'd like to see it lower than that. Looking at the A, it's fine. D is good. G's really, really low, but no buzzing, so that's good. B is also low, but not as low as G. And the high E is high. So the 2 E's are the highest. So my guess is these are pre-slotted nuts that are sent to Fender from Tusk, and then Fender just drops them in and doesn't really kind of get into them too deep. I'd like to see it a little lower than that. As you guys know, it makes it easier for those barred cores on the F. But sometimes if they go too low, you're going to see buzzing on the 1st fret. So this is adequate. Not great, but adequate. Okay, so let's go ahead and check to see if the frets are level. Now, like I said before, you can chromatically play all the notes and see, or you can use a fret rocker. I normally do it in the playing position, but you can do it on the bench just as easily. As you can hear, we have a spot on the 19th fret where it's rocking a little bit. We'll play it to see if that's causing a problem, and we'll continue on. It actually works perfectly fine. If we go here, they're all fine. Now, one of your questions might be, what happens if you lower the action? Yes, if you lower the action, that spot could get a little worse. But overall, looking at, I think you could lower the action to about 1.5mm versus the 2mm is at now, and still not see a problem with that. So overall, I think that's not a problem at all. Now let's do the sock test. That's where we take a nylon sock and we try the fret ends to see how rounded and polished they are. They're absolutely perfect. That's a 5 out of 5. I'm going to double check it just to make sure, and 5 out of 5. They feel perfectly smooth. Let's do the bass side. Yeah, again, this is definitely going to be a 5 out of 5. I can reuse this sock for the next test. Fantastic job. So let's take a look at the wiring and what they did different in this guitar, and it looks really crazy. If you look at this instruction manual, you're thinking, wow, I'm in for it. But really, it looks very familiar because it's exactly like the PRS Custom 2408. That's right, it's basically just a 3-way switch, volume tone, 2 humbuckers, and 2 coil splits. Nothing tricky, nothing complicated. Now, looking at the electronics, we see the same thing that we're seeing with Music Man and Gibson, where a lot of circuit boards are being used. So the coil split switches are attached to a circuit board. What's interesting though is over on the other side, they're not using a whole lot of circuit boards. You have 2 CTS 500K potentiometers, one for volume, one for tone, a 0.22 microfarad capacitor for the tone control, and then this little PC board right here, that's the treble bleed. So they're just using that instead of using 2 components for the treble bleed. Now looking in the cavities, there's no conductive shielding paint or conductive shielding tape, so it's not insulated in any way. And this came up a couple episodes ago. Somebody asked me why, when we're looking in these cavities, are they always filled with like this white powder residue? And what that is buffing compound. So when they're done with painting the guitar and they're buffing it and they clean off all the buffing compound, they tend to not clean them out of the cavities. They'll use a little air gun, spray it out, whatever comes out, comes out. But that's what you're finding in there. It's just buffing compound. Looking at the pickups, they look pretty standard. They're 4-conductor wire and they're wax potted. Now what's interesting is the pickups on this guitar are referred to as custom double tap humbuckers. Now Fender makes a pickup called the double tap humbucker. So let's check the specifications to see if they're different than the production pickup. Now checking the DC resistance, we can see this pickup is rating at 14.6K, which is considerably higher than the 8.2K that is on the Fender double tap humbucker that's available for purchase. So you can tell that they're putting a lot more wire on it. Now we're reading 6.4 Henrys on the inductance, which is higher than the 5.3 that we see on the production double tap pickup. So what we have here is an overwound version of the original double tap that Fender makes. And I'd also guess that they probably changed out the Alnico 4 for an Alnico 5 magnet, or they could have put the Confi magnet in there, which would also produce this result. What they've created essentially is a pickup that's going to give you the same results as, let's say, the Seymour Duncan full shred. I know what you're thinking, oh, full shred is a metal pickup, but it's actually a medium output pickup. This pickup would be perfect for driving a clean amp into dirty or taking an amp that's on the edge of breakup over into distortion. Or of course, if you have a high gain amp, this will give you a lot of breakup and a lot of sustain. So it's definitely a more aggressive pickup sound. All right, let's go ahead and coil split it and see what it does. And it's definitely a coil split. You can see what it did. It dropped from 14 to 9. Now looking at the neck, we're looking at 7.6K and the inductance is sitting at 3.7. So again, this is more vintage sounding for sure. And then checking the coil split, we see that it basically drops down to 5.1. So again, this is going to definitely be more vintage sounding. So what you have is an aggressive bridge with a very vintage sounding neck. Now, this guitar is a limited one of 500. They only made 500 worldwide, and they sold for $2,500 US. However, used, you see them going for about $2,200 to $2,500. Obviously, they're going to keep their value. Notice the one that sold for $2,250 isn't even used. It was a demo, so it may have been just a dealer trying to offload one really fast. But either way, if you can't get one, there's other guitars on the market. G&L makes the Doheny, which I think is really cool, and you can get that in a hardtail version if that's something that matters to you. Also, Sir, at this price point, you're close to $3,000. Sir, you can get the JM, which is great. I own a Valiant Jupiter that's fantastic. It's made by Master Luthiers, comes with bare knuckle pickups, and you can get it relict, non-relict, or pretty much any color you want. And then of course, they make Squier versions and all kinds of more affordable versions of this guitar. In fact, if anyone's interested in me doing a deep dive on this Squier Contemporary, it looks really, really cool, and I'd be willing to do it. Just put comments down below, and if I get enough comments and likes on the video, I'll do it. Okay, so let's do some sound demos. I'm going to start with the clean sounds. I'm going to use my Fender 65 Deluxe Reverb with an SM57 mic'd up on the Jensen speaker into my Focusrite interface and just see what kind of tones we can pull from it clean. Okay, we're going to start with the neck position, and this is full humbucker mode. Very interesting sound. It's really tame, really soft sounding. I feel like I'm getting some highs, but a lot of that is actually I'm hearing the strings right off those stainless steel frets. The tuning stability on this has been pretty good, but I've had a few moments like that where it just went out a little bit. It doesn't have the bite that you would really think it would. I mean, given what it is, it's just like I said, it's a vintagey style pickup. Very soft, very, very buttery, but no bite. Okay, let's go to the bridge pickup. And exactly what we saw when we were doing the geeky stuff, this pickup's really punching out now. This has the punch, and it's not actually breaking the amp over too much. Now, something interesting is, I mentioned that the volume had a treble bleed, and of course it was a PC board style one. Listen to this. It disappears really fast. In fact, on the travel of the knob, see? This halfway drops off real fast. I mean, as soon as I'm gonna say this, that's quarter turn, so let's do full. Not a fan of that. Tone control wise, we know the tone control is basic. Exactly how we think it should work. And like I said, the coil splits are right here and they make total sense. The one closest to the bridge is the bridge, one closest to the neck is the neck. Pretty good. Let's try it with a... You know what I can say that's really interesting is this doesn't really have a sound that I recognize. I don't think of it as a Jaguar sound, obviously, because it didn't have Jaguar pickups. It's not a jazz guitar. It's not really a Strat. It's not a Tele. It's not a Les Paul. I don't know what it is. I like it, but it's different. It's definitely different. Okay, let's go to the middle position. And this is what we were talking about like earlier when I was saying it was like the PRS 2408. Basically, where you have any combination you want. So this is two humbuckers. Pretty clear. Okay, now this is a humbucker neck, single coil bridge. Two single coils. Humbucker bridge, single coil neck. So you get a lot of combinations. I will say it's not very dramatic. I don't feel like I'm hearing a lot in the room. I'm curious to see what happens when I listen back to the recording, but it's not bad. It's actually pretty good, but it's not dramatic. Like I said, it's very all subtle. So now we've hooked up the Bad Cat Cub 40, and we're gonna just see where it takes us. Okay, let's coil split that. And again, I like it. I like it better than when it was clean. Nice. Okay, go to the neck pickup. Again, slopes right off because this is a very aggressive pickup versus this neck pickup. I mean, it really cleans up the amp. Coil split. Yeah, it's nice. Okay, middle position. Dual humbuckers. Oh, that's cool. I like this. I'm getting some cool sound combinations here. little Fireball 25 with a little bit of delay. I got the Nu X delay in the effects loop. Here we go. Okay, let's go to the neck pickup. It's nice. Let's go to the... Okay, now this comes alive a little bit with the single coil split. Here we go. Okay, time for the pros and cons. Let's start with the cons. It's not really a Jaguar. It has a Jaguar headstock and body shape, it has the chrome plates, and has the Jaguar logo. That's about it. After that, it has no similarities to a Jaguar. Different scale length, different neck feel, different bridge, different pickups, different electronics. So if you want a Jaguar and you want extra features, this is not the guitar for you. This is a guitar for someone who's looking for a Jaguar look, but a more modern feel and sound. Now for the pros, there's a lot of things to like about this guitar. Stainless steel frets, compound radius fretboard, locking keys, fit and finish is really good, and the sound is also very good. This also ticks a lot of boxes for players who always like the idea of the Jaguar look, but didn't want any of those crazy switchings or that scale length. I like having the coil splits up high on the upper horn. I think that's a really cool option and something I never really considered. And I also like the fact that when Fender does these limited runs like this, I've said this many times before, they will hold value better than other guitars because of the fact that 500 guitars is not a lot of guitars, not for Fender. To be honest, in a few years, you won't see very many of them. So when one pops up, somebody will be able to get what they paid for it or top dollar of some kind. The overall quality and look of this guitar is really cool. I gotta say, I love that they did stainless steel frets. I think that's really cool. Pickup wise, obviously I think I'm a fan of the bridge, not so much a fan of the neck, even though typically I like lower output pickups more than higher output pickups. I love the switching, like I said in the pros, and I'm not a huge fan at all of this volume control and this treble bleed. It just doesn't do a lot for me. It seems like it sucks the tone out too fast and it just drops off too fast. But overall, it's a very cool guitar and I was very lucky to be able to play it. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for spending some time with me today. Till the next time, know your gear.